Hi everybody, thank you for staying. Please keep staying. I won't keep you too long. Thanks so much for inviting me along today. I'm so grateful to Murray and to all of you at Amazing Accrington for everything you do for the town and the community, and it's great to hear in a bit more detail today some of the stuff that's been going on. I love the can-do attitude of your group of people and your willingness to make stuff happen. I'm very honoured to be part of the conversation. So Murray's asked me to speak today about art and creativity, and in particular how we can tap into not only our rich local heritage but also how best to celebrate the many writers and artists and actors who have come from Accrington and to continue that legacy. So we are trying to work with Creative Lancashire, which is a Lancashire County Council-led organisation, to tap into this, and more of that in a little bit. So part of what I want to talk to you today is about why art matters, as well as football. The two things aren't mutually exclusive. And why so many of us from this town went on to have successful careers in the arts, including, obviously, Jeanette Winterson, Graham Caveney, David Swan, poets and playwrights like Joelle Taylor, actors like Mina Anwar, Dominic Brunt, Muz Khan, Jonathan Slinger, Joe Alessi and myself. So I had an unexpectedly lovely train journey recently. Lucky enough to have managed to reserve a seat at a table in a typically overcrowded carriage, I was planning to shove my earphones in and bury my head in a book and disengage from my fellow passengers. So when the strangers at my table started to chat to each other and to me, my heart sank a bit. No, it does. But it ended up being one of the most interesting and engaging journeys I've ever had. My cross-country companions were Alan, a middle-aged gay actor, Kate, a young maths teacher at a struggling comprehensive school in West London, and Henry, a Ghanaian-born scientist working in Washington, DC. And we covered everything in that 2 hours between London and Manchester: childhood, sexuality, racism, Trump, and perhaps inevitably, there being a teacher amongst us, education. So Kate talked with sadness about how the new GCSEs were taking the toll on teachers and pupils alike at her school, and how she'd been working every evening and weekend to try and get her Year 11s through. She said that the school was already feeling the effects of the cuts in arts subjects, that although she was a maths teacher, the erosion of subjects that enhanced her students' creativity and awakened their minds to the wider world was already taking its toll on the mental health of the young people. Henry talked passionately about how, although he was a scientist by trade, it was the arts that gave him joy, that refreshed him and rebooted him after long days at the lab. Music venues, theatres, cinemas, these were his hangouts of choice. Alan and I both talked about the opportunities that we had taken for granted as we started out in the performing arts, opportunities that no longer exist for young people growing up in towns like ours, from families like ours. So I, along with a dozen of my mates, left Accrington at 18 to go to drama school in London after Martin Cosgrave, our brilliant late theatre studies teacher at Accrington and Hesmondhalgh College, inspired us all to make a go of it and audition. There were 5 of us on that course at Lambda from Accrington at the same time at the end of the 1980s, outnumbering Etonians 5-1. All of us on full grants from our local education authority. That further education performing arts course, as we know, no longer exists, and neither does the full local authority grants, of course. And nor adventure does the philosophy that an education in the arts or a desire to have a career in the arts is a worthwhile pursuit for people from backgrounds like mine. There's been an insidious mindset creeping into our national psyche, no doubt massively exacerbated by the prohibitive costs of higher education tuition fees, that somehow a career in the arts is pie in the sky and unrealistic, and that an arts or humanities degree or a drama art school training is not worth the investment. God forbid that anyone should be enthusiastic about learning for learning's sake and want to study philosophy or classics, never mind acting or dance, because of a personal passion for the subject, without wondering and worrying about how to make that choice economically viable in the long term. As Nicky Morgan, the then Conservative Education Minister, famously said in 2014, arts subjects limit career choices. warning young people that studying arts at higher education could hold them back for the rest of their lives. The majority of educationalists, of course, even those working in science and maths subjects like my travelling companion Kate, would disagree. The study of the arts, and in particular the performing arts, are partly encouraged in top public schools like Eton, I'm sure, because of the confidence, social skills and interpretive thinking that develop as a result. The wealthy have never been discouraged from indulging their passion for music, film, painting, theatre and dance. A government report in November 2017 recorded that the creative industries were indeed thriving, with the £92 billion sector growing at twice the rate of the economy. Post-pandemic, these figures have changed, obviously, but the fact that there is a burgeoning industry crying out for workers remains. But it appears that a huge swathe of the population, namely the state-educated, the less well-off, the working class, for whom the decision to saddle oneself with £27,000 debt, and that's just the tuition fees, at the start of their adult life is a major consideration. And they're being massively disincentivised to engage with the arts and humanities from school onwards. So it starts with the funding cuts and continues as art subjects are moved into a more theoretical and less practical curriculum framework at GCSE level. The controversial EBAC and its exclusion of art subjects is seen by many as the nail in the coffin of any meaningful creative education. Drama, art, dance and music at school have often been the only access young people have had to learn those skills. But there are, luckily, amazing organisations picking up the pieces and attempting to fill the gaps that current policy are leaving. There is hope. The working class artists who were encouraged and supported by the state from the 50s through to my generation growing up in the 80s and early 90s, who are now part of the cultural landscape of the UK as writers, actors, directors, dancers, visual artists, musicians, directors, etc., are the last of their kind. Or they could be, if we don't act to change this current climate of exclusion. A culture without diversity is a sick one. If our future artists only come from a really narrow stratum of society, the most well-off and privately educated, then who will be left to tell the stories of the rest of us? Who will hold a mirror to our world and ask the important questions about how we live now? Because art exists not only to entertain, but to reflect and inform and inspire. And at its best, it can be transcendent and transformative and completely democratic in that it is, or should be, available to us all, regardless of where we're from and who we are, a bit like football. The more diverse our culture, the wider the world of the stories we experience, the richer we all are for it. And perhaps most importantly, it creates, as I experienced on that Pendolini train not so long back, a point of connection in an increasingly isolating and fractured world. And it's this point of connection that places culture at the heart of conversations about the regeneration of our towns and cities too. So it's well documented how arts can transform towns and communities, how a robust and well-funded arts vision has transformed cities like Hull and towns like Stoke. So how can we help Accrington thrive in the face of industrial decline, changing retail habits and post-pandemic? A 2019 report by Arts Council England, based on independent research, showed that art and culture are up there with good schools when it comes to deciding where to live. 44% of people said that a local art scene was an important factor, and 43% said good schools. So the presence of a theatre, a gallery or a library, places where people gather to enjoy themselves and share an experience, can help to sustain towns through the transformations of our age. They can generate local pride and help to forge a new identity based on creativity while still celebrating their past. As one Stoke-on-Trent resident interviewed for the report stated, having a strong cultural offer gives the impression that an area respects itself and its historical and cultural heritage. And this kind of community self-esteem is crucial, as we've heard many times today. Performances, exhibitions, festivals can arrest decline and help to make town centres attractive places to visit and socialise. The figures in the report support this, with 68% of people saying that arts and cultural events are very important for fostering community feeling. So the establishment in Folkestone of the triennial exhibition and the development of the creative quarter in that town has similarly shown that the arts can draw people to destinations they might not otherwise have considered, turning town centres into busy places to visit and generating increased footfall for local businesses. As well as considering the benefits to communities, people are also drawn to places with a strong artistic offering because they recognise the value of creativity to themselves as individuals. According to the report, nearly 2/3 of people think that arts and culture are good for well-being, and 36% think arts and culture are essential to life, like football. Like my friends on the train, people who attended a wide range of arts and cultural events reported higher levels of satisfaction with their lives than those who did not, even after accounting for other factors that influence life satisfaction. And this is also borne out by the evaluation of the City of Culture programme in Hull, where over 90% of the residents took part in a cultural activity during that year, 80% of whom said that being part of the project made them feel happier. There is investment out there. As part of Arts Council England, the much feted Levelling Up, the National Lottery and Creative Lancashire. We're very lucky to have Ed Matthews-Gentle, who's here today, working for Creative Lancashire and living in and advocating for our town. Thanks for all you do, Ed. There are exciting long-term plans for a linear park along the Liverpool-Leeds Canal, led by Super Slowways, and already small bells ringing, the little canal barge floating library has taken residents for a long stint in Rishton. A recent online meeting chaired by Community Outreach at the Royal Shakespeare Company brought many different individual artists and writers and groups together to discuss the possibility of a world-class writing centre in Accrington, drawing on the rich heritage of writing talent here. When you look up Creative Lancashire events borough by borough over the last few months, there are textile workshops and festivals and exhibitions listed as springing up in Burnley and Blackburn. Local engagement is growing, but in Accrington there was nothing. The closure of Aussie Civic will leave a big hole in access too, as a place where many young people from the area have cut their teeth in youth projects and wonderful amateur productions over the years, myself included. Some boroughs are more invested in the arts than others and better at accessing funds. I would love there to be better communication between the council, Creative Lancashire, the various local artists and groups, and the business community. The Soapbox Challenge and the Light Switch On show there's an appetite for these community events. With a concentrated commitment to accessing funds and pulling resources together, I can see our lovely town transformed again. Peppercorn rents to create artist studios and workshop spaces in the arcade and maybe upstairs at the market hall, murals of our heritage and fostering civic pride, a Jeanette Winterson art and writing trail, highly Instagrammable, up the coppice to bring in many fans from all over the world to our town. Festivals where we bring together our diverse communities in the town square, music and food from Pakistan, celebrations for Eid, as well as honouring the Aki Pals through music and words and celebrating our textile heritage. An adventure golf course that's commissioned an artist to make an adventure golf course that reflects our heritage and culture too. These are just some ideas. I think we need some sort of bad weather cover in the square once it reopens after the market hall moves out there, so we can properly utilise it all year round. And how about our own poet laureate to perform poems before Stanley matches and all civic events? And a writing centre where we host a literature festival and create workshops for spoken word poetry, so popular among the young people at Hollins after the brilliant Wacker Ahmed did workshops there, really transformed young boy's life through his work. Perhaps a space for performance there too. And as no doubt Murray will talk to you about how we can channel these writing skills into employment opportunities in the town. It's exciting if we let it be. The will is there. So to begin this adventure, we're excited to announce our winter writing trail, an idea I shamelessly nicked from Glossop Creates. We matched 24 writers, some competition-winning pupils from local schools, and some writers and performers with a connection to the area, to 24 businesses in the town centre. The writers write a 200-word short story, a poem, with a winter or a Christmas theme and set in their allocated shop or business, with a hidden word that makes up a 24-word sentence about Accrington. The idea is to launch it at the light switch on, and families can access a map of the participating businesses, and through reading the stories in the shop windows can find the 24 words and enter a prize draw, yada, yada, yada. The idea to begin to whet the appetite of the town for more writing and spoken word events. We are incredibly grateful, as always, for your enthusiasm for bringing people together. And I hope that I've whet your appetites a little in terms of putting art and culture and writing front and centre in the hopes and dreams and investments that we have to help Accrington and its people thrive. Thank you very much for your time.